Hi guys, my name is Tiffany and welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to share something that's really personal and honestly kind of wild to look back on. It is my experience working as a Maitre'd at 19 years old. Yes, I am currently still 19, and while most people my age are in college and working their first job, I am managing the front of house at the fine dining restaurant I work at. I'm in charge of guest experience, reservations, staff flow, and everything revolving around front of house. This is definitely not an easy job, and it definitely came with some challenges, but it's been one of the most powerful experiences in my life so far. So whether you're interested in hospitality, leadership, or just curious what it's like managing adults as a teenager and other teenagers, this is for you. So I started working at this fine dining restaurant, which I'm not going to name because of privacy reasons, but I started working when I was in high school back in 2023. I was a sophomore at the time. I wasn't really looking for like a fancy position. I just really wanted to get out there and have a job, beginner level. I wanted to learn something new, and earn my own money. So I started out at this fine dining restaurant as a host, just greeting guests and answering phones and seating people. The restaurant that I work at, we have hosts and servers assistants, and so it's a dual job, and within this dual job you're cross-trained on how to do both jobs. Servers assistants typically help out the servers, take food and polish glasses, silverware, bus tables, get water for customers, basically anything that the server needs. And so during this time when I first started, it was my first ever job. I was scared. I was terrified. I did not know at all what to expect whatsoever. And so this was my realization. From very early on, I realized that I love being part of a system that made the night run smoothly. It actually wasn't until our other Maitre'd that we had before me that he was like, he was really one of the best encouragers that I had. He helped me a lot with everything that I know now, even now that I am a Maitre'd, and of course I am definitely still learning. You never stop learning in life. That's one thing I've definitely learned. But I liked the responsibility, I liked being trusted, and I wanted to do more. So I started watching people. I started paying better attention and on how everything worked. I even watched our ex-Maitre'd handle the floor at the time, how the kitchen even communicated to the front, how even the guest issues were like solved from the manager and everything. I asked questions, I stayed late, and I showed that I cared. And that's what changed everything. Those little details matter so much when you're working a job. So, I remember one time, the Maitre'd at the time, he pulled me aside and he told me, and I'll never forget it, he asked me to come into to chat in the office, and I thought maybe I've done something wrong. I was definitely not experienced, was scared, honestly, really scared. I was never the kid that got in trouble, in high school and whatever, so I've never been called, to like an office or anything, so I was, I'm scared, I don't know, but instead, he said something like this. He said, "I'm leaving soon, and I've been watching how you work, and you're ready." Something similar to that. I'm not going to quote exactly what he said because of privacy reasons, But basically, that night when he told me that he was leaving, he told me that he was giving me his job. I was speechless. I was still in high school. I was going into my senior year of high school. I never managed anything before except for high school projects or groups, but that was different. I thought of that differently. But something in me said yes. Even before I wanted to say yes, when he told me that night, I was very much terrified and scared. I almost said no because I did not think I was ready. I remember the night he told me that I didn't have to say yes, that I did not have to take this position if I didn't want it. But I did say yes, and I didn't know how I'd do at it. I just knew I wanted to try. And so before I graduated, I became Maitre'd of a fine dining restaurant. Well, what's it like being 19 and in a leadership role? Being 19 and in a position came with some pretty big challenges, I will definitely say. There are definitely moments where where people didn't take me seriously. I remember at the beginning, I've only really been Maitre'd for around 8 months now, so when I first started, I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. I was always the kind of girl that was quiet, didn't really want to talk to guests. I'm not really an outgoing person. You wouldn't think that, but I'm just not very outgoing. By nature, I'm very quiet, very shy. But once you get to know me, I'm definitely the outgoing girl. But there were times where people didn't take me seriously, and guests would ask to speak to a manager, and I'd have to say, "That's me," and they'd look at me like, "Really? What? This girl? She's probably 16? Of course she's a child. Why would she be in charge?" And dealing with that itself is just an emotional roller coaster. I know for me, and I definitely don't feel this way anymore, but at the time, it kind of brought down my self-confidence a little bit. So that was definitely hard. One of the things I would say, if you are definitely in a leadership position, I would say that one of the things you gotta say in your head over and over is do not care what other people think about you or what your position is, because no matter what, you got that role based on your experience, and you have the position that you have based on your experience. Don't let anyone tear you down or tell you that you don't know how to do your job, because you wouldn't have gotten that job or your position that you are if they didn't think you were ready and if they didn't think you were experienced enough. I have to repeat that to myself over and over again all the time, because being 19, I still doubt myself sometimes. I'm a lot better than I used to be with practice and everything, but it's definitely one of those hard things that you just got to be like, hey, I can do this job. Our ex-Maitre'd, he believed I was ready, and I have his job because of him and because I have the experience that I need. And this experience can definitely help me grow, and I've definitely experienced that. But it's also hard because some of the staff members are older than me, and some had been working there in the restaurant even longer than I've been alive. Our general manager has been there ever since the restaurant opened, which is about 4 years ago now, I believe. But again, this is another thing I've learned working there, is that that age doesn't define your leadership. It's your attitude that does. And so that's definitely one of the big ones, is how you come into your job and how you hold yourself and how you perform even your job is one of the biggest things you've got to remember. And while it is definitely one of the hardest things to remember, it's definitely important. I remember when I first started working there, I was the shy girl that never wanted to talk or come out of my shell. One, because I have always been a kid that my parents would always try to protect me as much as they can from the outside world, which I'm very, very glad they did. And I'm not really mad at them for it. But, you know, that restaurant was definitely a leap into the world, and I was a little bit scared, to be honest. So that was also hard. Coming into a place that you'd never done, and this is still my first ever job I've ever had. I've been promoted twice in my whole entire life, working there for 2.5 years now. So I had to show that I was consistent, respectful, and that I could handle pressure. And so as soon as I started getting, more equipped to how the roles were, like how to host and how to be a server's assistant, I started implying more of those qualities. Handling pressure is still a little bit hard for me. I'm definitely still growing in that. But it's just something you gotta work on. And I also had to prove to them that I wasn't a kid. I was someone who cared deeply about making the restaurant better for both the guests and the team. I love this part of my job. This part of trying to make the experience better for both the team and the restaurant. I want to try my best, and I would do anything that I could for that restaurant ever, and for my team, for the girls that I get to lead, the team I get to lead, the group of teenagers that I get to lead. Man, they are amazing. They do a great job at their job. They are funny and quirky. I may be out of high school, but part of me is still a high school girl at heart. And yes, I still am balancing college, work, and all at the same time. And it's not easy, but because I care so deeply about the teenagers that I oversee, it definitely is worth it, 100%. And I'll never regret it. So some advice that I would give to people or teenagers that are young leaders, and even if you're not, I would assume a lot of you guys are not in a higher, like a leader position at like 16 or whatever, but you could be. I definitely know some people that have worked like at one of my classmates actually, when I was back in high school, she was a manager and she was only 17, I believe, at the time. And so she was even younger than me before I even became something. But so I definitely want to give you guys some advice that I definitely wish I had, because I did not really know a whole bunch. Our ex-Maitre'd just basically gave me a book and was like, here, I want you to read this. It helps me so much with conversations, not only with my coworkers, but also how to have those hard talks too. So if you're interested in that book, I can link it down also. It's I don't remember what the author is, but it's How to Have Hard Conversations is what the title of the book is. I'll link it down below if you're interested. It definitely brought a whole lot of insight into how I word things. But on to my advice that I have for young leaders, and anyone that, even if you just want to hear advice from Maitre'd as somebody who works with the teenagers really close. Okay, here's this. If you are young and someone gives you a chance to lead, take it. Never let that opportunity go. You gain experience from it, and that experience then can be turned onto your resume. And when other companies see that, even miles or years down the road, when you take that responsibility, they'll be like, oh wow, you really took your job seriously. So whenever I quit from my job, which I don't plan on doing anytime soon, whenever I quit and I write down what that is, people, my future job, whatever that may be, they will see that I was a Maitre'd at 19 years old, and they'll be like, wow, she got this high position at this young age. So never be afraid if someone gives you a chance to lead, because that is an opportunity. Now, it might be scary, it might be terrifying, but take that opportunity. Take as many opportunities as you can. Never be afraid. And if you are, remember that you are capable of much more than you think. You will learn. You'll definitely make mistakes along the way, but we're human, and that's okay. And making mistakes are okay. That's definitely something I had to learn from the hard way, and I don't like making mistakes in front of my team, but sometimes I do, and that's okay. That's definitely okay. My next piece of advice is you don't have to know everything. Trust me, I do not know every single thing about a restaurant. I know a lot for my job, and I know enough to where I like for my job description, I know everything I need to know for that. And I know a little bit beyond there. But it's okay not to know everything. And if we knew everything, life would be very boring, and there would never be any more growing at all. So, even adults, they're still learning things. Like me, I'm only 19. Technically, I'm legally an adult, and I'm still learning things. I've been at that restaurant for 2.5 years, and I still learn things. Heck, I don't even know what our house red is, like wine-wise, or white wine. What's our house white wine? I don't even know. I know now, like a Sauvignon Blanc, but that's besides the point. It's okay. You don't need to know everything. As long as you know enough for your job description, you will be okay. And even if you don't know everything in your job description, things will come with time. Ask questions. That's definitely what I did. When I got trained for those 2 weeks before our ex-Maitre'd left, I asked so many questions. So many. And he also helped me a lot with my self-confidence and my self-doubt and everything. Me and him are really close, and we still are really close to this day. I actually haven't talked to him in a while, but I do miss him a lot. Working there. Anyway, it's on a rabbit trail. But it's okay not to know everything. And the hardest thing, I think, in that part is you need to be okay with making mistakes. And if you're kind of person that's a perfectionist like me, sometimes it depends. It's definitely hard to learn, but it's okay. The next thing I would say is you just have to be willing to learn, to listen, and to grow. You need to be open to criticism and everything. Definitely, this is also a really hard lesson, but if you're willing to learn, to listen, and to grow, you will succeed at your job. Still to this day, I listen and I grow and I learn a lot, because there are people that work there that are older than me, and they know so much more than I do. Our general manager, he may have become general manager 2 months before me, I think. Like 2 months before me, but he still knows way more about how to be an adult, how a restaurant business is run, how the restaurant should be run, because he's worked there longer than I have. And so I learn and I listen, and I am able to grow from him because he knows how much he knows. Now, I know it's hard, definitely, especially when you get criticism. A lot of the times it's hard to not want to fight back and be like, hey, that's who I am as a person. Like, I'm not going to change that. Yes, it's hard when you're in a leadership position and people criticize you and want you to change how you do things. For me, I'm like, thank you for your feedback. I typically am like, thank you for your feedback. I'll definitely take that in consideration next time. Now, you don't always have to apply the criticism. Sometimes their criticism just will not work, and that's okay. And sometimes their criticism is 100% right, and you need to accept the fact that maybe you do need to change something about your team or something like that, and that's okay too. You've got to be open to ideas, and that's definitely one thing I've learned over my time working there. And even still, I'm a lot better than I used to be at taking criticism. I still don't take it very well, but at work I'm definitely very good at taking it, just because I'm a young Maitre'd and I could do with as much help as I could get. Be consistent, be kind, and show up early. Those are my next 3 things. They kind of speak for themselves. You want to be consistent. You don't want to come in with like one mood where you're all like, yes, I'm going to support everyone, and then be like, I'm grumpy, I'm going to yell at you, and I'm going to blah, 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 and all negative. No, you don't want to be that kind of person, because being that kind of person does not help. You need to be consistent with your emotions. Be kind. Kind of also speaks for itself. You need to be understanding as well. I know for me, I try to be kind every single day. I say hi to everyone I come in, especially when I come into work. I ask them how their weekend was, or how their day has been, or basically anything, because you do not want to get on people's bad side. So just be kind, especially if you're kind, then they'll see that you're kind and you have all this happy energy, and that'll want to influence the others to be the same kind of thing. And show up early. Showing up early, it pretty much speaks for itself. Don't be late for work, please. Now, if I get it, like if you have like a family thing, at least let us know ahead of time. Like that's okay. That's definitely okay. Just let us know. But don't just be like a no-show. When you're supposed to be there at 4, you get there at 4. You don't get there at 4:30 or 4:45. You get there at 4. And if you get there at 4:01, that's okay. Or 4:05, but not 4:45. If you're going to be later than 1 to 5 minutes, even 10 minutes late, you should let somebody know. That's kind of my advice on that. It's kind of self-explanatory, but stay late when you need to. Now, this is one that I definitely do all the time. As somebody who is in leadership, I try to make it so that the younger teenagers get home even before I do. Because, they have school, they have their own life, and I want them to be able to live that. And so with that, I always stay late when I need to. All the time. But not only does it apply to my position, but it can apply to any of y'all's position, no matter where you are. If you work in retail, or if you work in a restaurant, anywhere, you can stay later than you need to. Help clean up. Be like, hey, is there anything I can do before I leave? Always try to find something to do, because there's always something to do, no matter where you work. And so if you show also another thing, if you stay later, it also shows that you care a lot about the company as well, and so that can also lead to farther down the road into a promotion. That's definitely something I would do. I would stay later a lot of the time, and that's how I got to the position that I'm in now, a lot of it. But also I've just got really, really good at my job over my 2 years working there before I became Maitre'd like 8 months ago. So, just give it your all. And that's what I would say. Kind of that one's also kind of self-explanatory. Yeah. My next advice is ask questions, stay humble, and don't be afraid to speak up. Always ask questions. There's never a dumb question. You've probably heard that from teachers. There's no such thing as a dumb question or a stupid question or whatever it is. But if you don't know something, just ask, and don't be afraid to ask. I know, especially when I first started, I was so scared of asking questions. So scared. I did not want to ask anything whatsoever. I was too scared about what people thought about me, or that they think I wouldn't know how to do my job. Just ask questions, please. Don't be afraid. Stay humble. You definitely want to stay humble. You definitely do. That kind of speaks for itself. I definitely would say it's important to stay humble, because that's another way how you learn. And if someone sees that in you, they know, it can kind of lead to a way of also being promoted that way too, as well. And don't be afraid to speak up. Y'all, this one is a big one, okay? There are so many people that I've worked with that are too afraid to speak up for themselves. And I don't think that's just, working where I work. I think right now our world is like that. And so culturally, our world just does not want to speak up for itself because they're afraid of whatever other people think about you. Do not be afraid at all. Speak up for your opinion, or speak up for something. Like if you see another coworker doing something wrong or changing their, time for when they clock in, speak up about it. Now, try not to, tell on them, be like, like that. But speak up about it. Tell the manager, or, if something is up. Definitely if something is up. Do not be afraid. Put yourself out there. And, hey, maybe you'll get even rewarded for it. So, definitely take that into consideration. The next thing is that leadership doesn't mean being the loudest in the room. It means making others feel heard. Definitely that. I'm not really a loud person, so I can't relate to being the loudest person in the room. But I definitely try to make it so that people feel heard. Kind of like what I said earlier, where I tell everyone that we hire that's new that if they have a rough day, they can always come to me, to our general manager, or anyone, and they can always just, tell us what's on their mind. Because at the end of the day, these teenagers have a life, and so these adults too. They have a life outside of work, and sometimes you don't see the whole story, or like their whole life. You see them at work, and that's only like the little tiny part of their life that you see. You don't see like their family life, you don't see their medical life, you don't see their relationship life, their educational life, you don't see all of that. And so that's another thing I try to strive for, is try not to judge people too early. I definitely try not to judge people from first impressions, and while first impressions are important, I try not to consider their life. Don't look at their life and say they're a bad person. Actually get to know the person and their personality before you start judging them. And so I definitely had a lot of experience with that. I can't go into the details right now because of privacy reasons, but we did have a situation like that at work, and you never look at one person's part of their life and judge their whole life based upon that. You gotta look at the whole big picture, and you gotta always give people grace, and sometimes they need it more than others, and pity as well. You need to be open to that. That's all I'm going to say on this subject, because I cannot really say any more about it due to privacy reasons, and I can't tell things. But the next thing I would say is people may doubt you, but if you stay focused, they'll respect you. And I promise it's worth it. I promise. I remember at the beginning, a lot of the customers would doubt me a lot, but if you stay focused on your job, basically show that you know what you're doing, people will respect you. And now over time, I have respect of every single person that's on my leadership team because I stayed focused in what I was doing. And because of that, the teenagers also respected our general manager. They also respected everyone that was above them. And so because of that, that definitely helped when our ex-Maitre'd said that they're putting me in this new position. And so that helped a lot, especially if you get respect from the teenagers early, and especially from a different, like manager or Maitre'd. Transitioning over the power can be a lot easier. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching and letting me share my story. It's definitely been a long one, and I'm sorry about how long this video is going to turn into, but if you've ever worked in hospitality or you're in a leadership position at a young age, I would love to hear your story in the comments. Don't forget to like this video if it inspired you, and subscribe if you want to see more about work, leadership, and life. You can do hard things and you can lead no matter how old you are. Yeah, and if you guys have any ideas, if you want any new video ideas or think of anything, I am a new channel and I am trying to develop new videos, and the main point of my channel is trying to give advice to young teenagers who might be starting off as a job, and also being in a leadership position at a young age if you are there, and also what it's like working in a restaurant, but also if you just want a day in the life of what it's like working as a maitre d', I would love to do that. But yeah, restaurant, quality stuff, or even if you just want to advice about basically anything, like general advice, I would be more than happy to. Again, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!